Good morning, dear students of class 12. Welcome to the online English learning class. Today we are going to take up the lesson The Enemy by Paul S. Buck. We'll be continuing further with the text of this lesson. We have already covered in part 4 about Dr. Sadau's meeting the general and sharing with the general that an American prisoner of war was sheltering in his house, and the general is needing treatment badly from the doctor, as he trusts the doctor because of his training in America, whereas there were other equally capable doctors who were trained in Germany, and so they were ruthless. So the doctor was more dependable for the general because of his training in America, and so the general wanted Dr. Sadau's life to secure his own life. And so he promised Dr. Sadau that he is going to send his private assassins who will finish the prisoner of war in a very cold and silent manner and would also remove his body. Now, Sadau likes this assurance from the general and he is greatly relieved. He comes to his house. He doesn't share this information with Hannah. We'll continue the lesson further. Sadau considered that perhaps would be the best excellency. He agreed, thinking of Hannah. He left the general's presence then and went home, thinking over the plan. In this way, the whole thing would be taken out of his hand. He would tell Hannah nothing, since she would be timid at the idea of the assassins in the house, and yet certainly such persons were essential in an absolute state, such as Japan was. How else could rulers deal with those who opposed them? So, in a country like Japan, where the general had to exercise his dominance, for a general it was very necessary to keep a private team of assassins with him, which is necessary for an absolute state. But he was not going to share this piece of information with Hannah. Otherwise, she would become very stressed. He refused to allow anything but reason to be the atmosphere of his mind as he went into the room where the American was in bed. But as he opened the door, to his surprise, he found the young man out of bed and preparing to go into the garden. "What is this?" he exclaimed. "Who gave you permission to leave your room?" "I'm not used to waiting for permission," Tom said gladly. "Gosh, I feel pretty good again. But will the muscles on this side always feel stiff?" "Is it so? Now just so see his doctor's concern. He is examining his patient. Now this person is no more a prisoner of war." Sadao inquired, surprised. "He forgot all else. Now I thought I had provided against that," he murmured. He lifted the edge of the man's shirt and gazed at the healing scar. "Massage may do it," he said, "if exercise does not." "It won't bother me much," the young man said. His young face was gone under the stubbly blond beard. "Say, doctor, I've got something I want to say to you. If I hadn't met a Jap like you, well, I wouldn't be alive today. I know that." So he wanted to express his gratefulness to the doctor. Sadao bowed, but he could not speak. He didn't want to reply to this. "Sure, I know that," Tom went on warmly, his big thin hands gripping the chair were white at the knuckles. "I guess if all Japs were like you, there wouldn't have been war." So he expressed his feeling for Dr. Sadao, who was so kind being a Japanese, and he wished all Japanese were like him. "Perhaps," Sadao said with difficulty, "and now I think you'd better go back to bed." He helped the boy back into the bed and then bowed. "Good night," he said. Sadao slept gladly that night. Time and again he woke, thinking he heard the rustling of footsteps, the sound of a twig broken or a stone displaced in the garden, a noise such as men might make who carried a burden. So he was waiting for the assassins to come. The next morning he made the excuse to go first into the guest room. If the American were gone, he then could simply tell Hannah that so the general had directed. But when he opened the door, he saw at once that there on the pillow was a shaggy blonde head. He could hear the peaceful breathing of sleep, and he closed the door again quietly. "He is asleep," he told Hannah. "He is almost well to sleep like that." "What shall we do with him?" Hannah whispered, her old refrain. So again Hannah expressed her concern. Sadao shook his head. "I must decide in a day or two, so this decision has to be taken very soon," because he was sure that the assassins were going to come. But certainly he thought the second night must be the night. There rose a wind that night, and he listened to the sound of bending boughs and the whistling partitions. Hannah woke up. "Ought we not to go and close the sick man's partition?" "No," Sadao said. "He is able now, and he'll do it himself." But the next morning the American was still there. So 2 nights have passed and the assassins had not come. Then the third night, of course, must be the night. The wind changed to quiet rain, and the garden was full of sound of dripping eaves and running sprigs. Sadao slept a little better, but he woke at the sound of a crash and he leaped to his feet. "What was that?" Hannah cried. The baby woke at her voice and began to wail. "I must go and see," but he held her and would not let her move. Probably he thought that the assassins had come. "Sadao," she cried, "what is the matter with you?" "Don't go," he muttered. "Don't go." His terror infected her, and she stood breathless, waiting. There was only silence. Together they crept back into the bed, the baby between them. Yet, when he opened the door of the guest room in the morning, there was a young man. He was gay and had already washed and was now on his feet. He had asked for a razor yesterday, and he had shaved himself, and today there was a faint color in his cheeks. "I'm well," he said joyously. So he was recovering. Sadao drew his kimono round his very body. He could not, he decided suddenly, go through another night. It was not that he cared for this young man's life. No, simply it was not worth the strain. So now the doctor had to take some decision, not because he wanted to save the young man's life, but for the safety of his family. "You are well," Sadao agreed. He lowered his voice. "You are so well that I think I put my boat on the shore tonight with food and extra clothing in it. You might be able to row to that little island not far from the coast. It is so near the coast that it's not been worth fortifying. Nobody lives on it, because in the storm it is submerged, but this is not the season of storm. You could live there until you saw a Korean boat pass by. They pass quite near the island, because the water is many fathoms deep there." The young man stared at him, slowly comprehending. "Do I have to?" he asked. So Dr. Sadao was planning his escape. He is going to give him his boat and his food, store the boat with food, extra clothing, and he is going to, he gave him necessary instructions that he can sail to a nearby island from where he would get a Korean boat which would take him safely to his men. So this plan was being made by Dr. Sadao for the safe departure of the American prisoner of war. "I think so," Sadao said gently. "You understand, it is not hidden that you are here. So now I want you to leave this place, because the news is probably no more hidden." The young man nodded in perfect comprehension. "Okay," he said simply. Sadao did not see him again until evening. As soon as it was dark, he had dragged the stout boat down to the shore, and in it put food and bottled water that he had brought secretly during the day, as well as 2 quills he had bought at the pawn shop. The boat he tied to a post in the water, for the tide was high. There was no moon, and he worked without a flashlight. When he came to the house, he entered as though he were just back from work, and so Hannah knew nothing. Yummy was here today, she said, as she served his supper. Though she was so modern, still she did not eat with him. Yummy cried over the baby. So, after the prisoner of war had escaped, the normalcy in the house returned. The servants came back. The servants will come back as soon as the foreigner is gone. He went into the guest room. That night, he went to bed himself and checked carefully the American's temperature, the state of wound, and his heart pulse. The pulse was irregular, and that was perhaps because of excitement. So, probably now this would be the night when he would make sure that this prisoner of war leaves. I realize you are saving my life again. Not at all. So he did not take the credit of saving the prisoner of war's life. He had hesitated a good deal about giving the man a flashlight, but then he had decided to give it to him after all. So he also, besides food, boat, clothing, extra clothing, quills, he also gave him a flashlight. If your food runs out before you catch a boat, signal me 2 flashes. Do not signal in darkness. If you are all right, signal me once. You will find fresh fish easy to catch. You must eat them raw. A fire could be seen. So these necessary instructions were given for the safety of the prisoner of war. He was dressed now in Japanese clothes Sadao had given, and at the last moment Sadao wrapped a black cloth around his blond head, because he did not want his hair to be seen, uh, and that is why, because that would make it very distinguishable that he was an American, and he tried to cover his head also with a black cloth. The young American, without a word, shook Sadao's hand warmly and then walked quite well. So the prisoner of war left. Sadao saw his light flash to find his way, but then he could not be suspected. He waited until the shore there was one more flash. There he closed the partition. That night he slept. So the American prisoner of war had left. You say the man escaped? The generals asked faintly. He had been operated upon a week before an emergency. So the doctor had performed his operation successfully, and the general's life was saved. And then the general inquired about the prisoner of war. The servants had returned, and Yummy had cleaned the guest room thoroughly, and normalcy in the house returned. But after a week, the general was well enough to be spoken. Yes, Excellency, he escaped. So I informed him. That prisoner, he said with some energy, did I not promise you I would get him killed for you? Yes, you did. Well, well, the old man in tone of amazement said, so I did. But you see, I was suffering a good deal. The truth was that I thought nothing but of myself. In short, I forgot my promise. So I could not keep my promise. Now here there is a big question mark whether the general really forgot or he is just purposely trying to pretend that he forgot. I was certainly certainly very careless of myself, uh, but it was not lack of patriotism or dereliction of duty. So he tried to make his stand very clear. I can swear to your loyalty, Excellency. Dr. Sadao also said, you are a good man, you will be rewarded. But Sadao, searching the spot of black light in the twilight sea that night, had his reward, and that reward was saving the young man's, the American prisoner of war's life. He did not need any such reward. He stood for a moment on the veranda gazing out at the sea, and into his mind, although without reason, there came other white faces. He remembered his stay in America, which was not a very pleasant one. He did not like the American professor, his wife, except for his teacher of anatomy, his professor of anatomy. His stay in America was full of prejudiced Americans, but he remembered that in spite of that treatment that he got in America, he was not able to kill the prisoner of war. Something made him save his life, and he himself was not able to understand. So at this point, we